Whether searching for an arcade title or a realistic sim, PlayStation Plus has racing fans covered. PS Plus Extra and Premium members have a plethora of titles from both new and older PlayStation generations at their disposal. This massive collection covers almost every type of game imaginable, but it can be challenging to pinpoint the standout titles on PlayStation Plus. So, if you just so happen to be a racing game fan, you're in luck, since there's a great selection to choose from. However, it's worth noting that games come in and out of the service each month, so a racing game mentioned here might not always be available. With that said, welcome to Game Rant, everyone. My name is Geoffrey. Today, let's take a look at 10 of the best racing games that crossed that finish line in first place on PS Plus Extra and Premium. Number 10, Redout 2. Those craving absolute speed above all else should definitely check out Redout 2. The sequel to the original Redout, this game prides itself on being one of the fastest racers currently available on the market. Clearly inspired by retro releases like F-Zero, Redout 2 will have players racing across futuristic tracks at blazing speeds. The cars themselves are quite the spectacle thanks to their futuristic designs, and there are some seriously cool and striking visuals. Redout 2 features a single-player campaign for those looking to get their feet wet, and also contains a multiplayer mode for those itching to get a bit more competitive against other players. Number 9, Ridge Racer 2. Up until the PS3 era, Ridge Racer was a staple of Sony's PlayStation launch lineups. The franchise's games often acted as showcases of a console's hardware, all the while being very good arcade racers in their own right. The PSP kept up this trend with Ridge Racer, which is still among the highest rated games on the console. The 2006 sequel is not quite as decorated, but that primarily comes down to a lack of notable additions and improvements rather than an actual decline in quality. Now that's not to say Ridge Racer 2 has nothing new to offer, just that the additions come in the form of tracks rather than mechanics. Consequently, this release can feel like a glorified expansion rather than a proper sequel. As valid as these criticisms are, they are not that relevant in this day and age, particularly for PS Plus Premium subscribers. If only one of these two titles could be added to the service, the 2006 entry was the right game to highlight. Number 8, Hotshot Racing. A throwback to classic arcade racers like Virtua Racing and Daytona USA, Hotshot Racing wears its inspiration proudly on its hood. Utilizing a vibrant, blocky art style that just screams 90s arcades, this charming racer features 8 drivers and more than 30 unlicensed vehicles that pay pretty obvious homage to recognizable cars. In terms of its actual racing mechanics, Hotshot Racing drives like a dream. The cars are responsive and weighty, and their stats do impact the way each of them feel. Similar to its inspirations, Hotshot Racing is not particularly overflowing with content, and players can experience almost everything the game has to offer within just a few short hours. Number 7, Wipeout Omega Collection. Wipeout Omega Collection contains remasters of the PS3's Wipeout HD and the PS Vita's Wipeout 2048, both of which are great futuristic racers. Over the last decade, Studio Liverpool's franchise has mainly been dormant, and that doesn't appear set to change soon. In the meantime, PS Plus Premium subscribers can at least visit 2 of the license's highest points. Offering a stylish presentation and challenging gameplay, Wipeout Omega Collection is the perfect game to throw on for a few quick races. Although it has an arcade feel, the package is not lacking in depth and offers a pretty decent challenge. The collection is also not lacking in content. Number 6, Riders Republic. Ubisoft's Riders Republic is an extreme sports game set in a beautiful and diverse open world. An online-focused experience, the title launched with a few extreme sports for players to specialize in, and Ubisoft has continued to add activities post-launch. Be it snowboarding, bikes, or even wingsuits, the sports control fairly differently from each other, which extends the game's overall replayability. Riders Republic did not get too much attention at launch, and it has somewhat faded from the public's consciousness over the last few years. Nevertheless, the game's fundamentals are strong, and they are backed by a good range of content. Number 5, Jak X Combat Racing. Naughty Dog's Jak X Combat Racing tends to be overshadowed by the studio's other kart racer, which is a shame as the PS2 title is nearly as great as Crash Team Racing. Along with exhibition and multiplayer modes, Jak X has a single-player campaign that casts players as the franchise's heroes in a competition consisting of 4 cups. While a kart racer, Jak X places a heavier emphasis on vehicular combat than most of the subgenre's representatives, and Naughty Dog even goes as far as to give health bars to cars. The adventure mode is a blast and consistently rewards players with new unlockables. Number 4. Trials Rising. Ubisoft's Trials series has been going on for a while now, and the 2019 entry is among the franchise's best. Trials Rising challenges players to complete absurd courses filled with physics-defying stunts. While the game loves to inject a dash of silliness into proceedings, its wacky presentation is combined with precise and satisfying gameplay that comes with a reasonably steep learning curve. Trials Rising is a creative racer that goes out of its way to surprise players. Newcomers to the franchise might initially struggle to come to grips with the game's controls, but when things do finally click, Red Lynx's title really starts to shine. Number 3. Split Second. As can be said for several BlackRock Studio games, Split Second is awesome and underrated. This arcade racer casts players as stunt drivers in a reality TV show, and the goal is to blow up everything while dashing toward the finish line. Unapologetically ludicrous, the game embraces its absurd premise with vigor and style. Now, as fun as the over-the-top shenanigans are, Split Second also does not ignore its fundamentals. At its core, this arcade racer controls very well, delivering an accessible experience filled with mayhem and excitement in equal measures. While racing games are and will likely always be fairly common, Split Second is truly one of a kind. Number 2. Wreckfest. Destruction Derby and vehicular combat games have somewhat fallen to the wayside ever since the tragic cessation of licenses like Flatout and Twisted Metal. The former is particularly important in this discussion, as that series' decline started once it was no longer in the hands of developer Bugbear. Thankfully, the latter returned to the genre with Wreckfest. Existing largely unopposed for the last few years, the game is a throwback to the Destruction Derbies of yesteryear, and it is a respectful one at that. Along with a few online modes that are not dead, but neither brimming with life, Wreckfest offers a surprisingly substantial single-player package. Players will get to work their way through a plethora of events that can range from fairly standard to unapologetically quirky. Either way, the result will be tracks filled with the corpses of many cars. Number 1. Motorstorm Apocalypse. From 2006 to 2012, Sony published 5 Motorstorm games, seemingly setting the license up to be a PlayStation cornerstone moving forward. Then, the franchise just died. Though never reaching the heights of Need for Speed or Forza, Motorstorm is relatively consistent, with each game building on the one that came before it. Motorstorm Apocalypse drops players in a world that is falling apart around them, setting races amidst decrepit and crumbling buildings. Even if it is not the most precise or complex racing game on PS Plus, Apocalypse is quite the spectacle and is a lot of fun. And there we have it, 10 of the best racing games for you to check out on PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. Thank you so much for watching this video from Game Rant. Have a truly wonderful and happy day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.